Good evening, and you're very welcome back to the Women's National League podcast here on finalwhistle.ie. My name is Breifne early, and I'm going to be filling in for Alana, who's not with us this week. We talked about it at the end of last week's show. She's moved on to other opportunities within the game, but we hope to have her back in the future at some point. In terms of tonight's show, though, we're looking across the league and maybe some of the results from last weekend with Aaron Clarke from the WNL show. He'll be joining us late in just a few moments to go back over last weekend's action. We'll also be previewing the weekend's action with him at the end of the show. But in the meantime, we do have two guests for you today, and we are looking at East and West. We're talking to Kate Mooney of DLR Waves, a striker who's had a bit of an unfortunate luck with injuries over the last 12 to 15 months or so. We're going to be talking to her about her time at DLR since her switch from Shelbourne and what the future might hold for her and her teammates this season. And then we will hear from Abbiegayle Ronayne, the goalkeeper who has moved back to Galway this year and is experiencing a new lease of life between the sticks for Galway after her transfer from Athlone over the closed season. But first, let's get on with the show. We're going to hear from Aaron now. And Aaron, of course, you join me now. You're obviously the host of the WNL show, well known to everyone around the league. Thank you very much for joining us this week to have a look through the league and the results from the weekend.
Happy to be here. As you can probably see from the face, the sunburn from Talca Park is still a little bit bright.
Talca Park has never been as bright at the moment. We might talk a bit more about that famous old ground over the next couple of minutes or so when we get through some of the games, but that's probably where we should start. You mentioned Talca Park, Shells versus Peamount, the top two sides in the league over the last couple of seasons. And did it live up to expectations? I know we bigged it up on the show here last week.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it lived up to expectations. These sort of games are always going to be nip and tuck. There's not a lot between these sides. You know, Peamount were coming in after the draw against Bows the week before, whereas Shelbourne had the good win against Treaty, and you're sort of thinking, you know, how are things going to marry out? Are Peamount going to have a battle in them again? Are they going to be battle hardened? And to be honest with you, they were probably the better side for about the first 30 minutes until the goal came. For me, arguably one of Shelbourne's most underrated and underappreciated players in the last 12 months in Jess Gargan down the right flank. Got a lovely ball in. Fell lovely to Jessie Stapleton after a couple of ricochets, and you know she wasn't going to miss from close range to give them the lead. It sort of swung the game an awful lot, Breifne. And if I look back at the Bows game a week earlier, you could see Peamount are struggling a little bit when they were chasing the game. You know, they seem to be a great side when they have the ball and they're 1 up, they're 2 up. You know, they're in control. But they just found it hard chasing against Shelbourne, and Niamh Burke made an absolute world-class save not long after. They went 1-0 down, and, you know, they struggled to sort of test Amanda Puddin. She'd one decent save in the first half. Other than that, it was only really a late flurry from Peamount to sort of put her under a bit of pressure. Absolutely, game lived up to itself for me. I think the atmosphere was great. You know, we're starting to see the Shells Ultras appear in the Ballybock end of Talca Park, trying to give the away fans the away players a little bit of a jeering and a hustle on it. You know, it makes the atmosphere, and I think the people who were in Talca Park definitely, you know, they got good value for money, and it was a superb game. But in terms of Peamount, you know, that's 2 back-to-back disappointing results. The draw against Bows, then the loss against Shelbourne, you know, puts them 5 points behind so early on after the first series of games. James O'Callaghan will be extremely disappointed in that. And to be honest with you, we'll speak about it later on. They come up against another informed side this weekend. So, you know, they're going to need to try and break that rut a little bit and try and get some sort of momentum going, because if they don't, when the sides meet again, we could see a massive gap between the top two in the Women's National League and Shelbourne sort of in cruise control, because most of the game, while Peamount had the good early possession, you know, the final third was a struggle. They couldn't really put much pressure on Shelbourne, and Shell's defence were easily able to hold tight.
Yeah, in terms of, I suppose, the goal, you mentioned Jess Stapleton had a fairly straightforward tap in towards the end of that move. But there seemed to be something maybe with their namesakes, Jess Gargan. Great run from Jess Gargan to break into the box and create that opportunity. Disappointed not to score herself, maybe, or will she care? She'll just be happy that the ball ended up on the back of the net.
To be honest with you, I don't think she'll care. I don't think she'll care at all. I think the fact of getting 3 points against Peamount, you know, we look at last year, the 4-3 game, Noel King was sent off. You know, you could see there was that little bit of bite in it. You could see it on the sideline still. There was a little bit of niggle between the two benches. You know, the rivalry is getting massive, but maybe wasn't there for a long time. And You know, I don't think either side will care. A 1-0 win against the opposition, they'll take it all day long, you know, and they'll come away with a smile.
I don't know if you're who you're talking to, but I think the rivalry has always been simmering underneath. I know there's no love lost on the field between the two sides and even between the players when they're on the pitch. I know they get on fairly well off it, but I think there's always been that little bit of a rivalry there.
You know what the thing is, too? It's been a rivalry, but the problem with women's football is the rivalries aren't really as intense. And, you know, it's starting to come now. We've seen a little bit with Bows and Shells last year as well. And it's going to grow even more. It's going to simmer even more. The next year or two, it's going to be very interesting with these sort of clubs, with the rivalries, with the things. And, you know, and it makes great for a great atmosphere, you know. It makes great for the spectacle, especially. You don't want a game where, you know, such a tight game like that where it's just going to be mellow. And you want the fans involved both sides. You want the players and the benches involved. Because it all makes it, and you know, it helps to promote the league and grow the league.
I suppose one of the big talking points after the game, and it came through in some of the press photos that we saw coming into the office, was the whole Talcott Park, the Save Talcott Park campaign. And I suppose the early indicator of some level of success in that, at least that Dublin City Council seem to be now recommending, or at least the chief executive seems to be now recommending that Talcott Park stay within the football family, and Shells would be able to invest and grow something there. Is it an opportunity for the club to kind of go, yes, here's a chance to make Talcott Park our home indefinitely? Or is it the possibility that now that the campaign is done, the hard work and the funding really only starts here, and it could be an albatross around the neck of the club in terms of the finances going forward?
Absolutely. You're dead right. And I think people think great, Talcott Park's being saved, like superb that the council sort of said earmark Richmond Park as well. But the problem is, here's where the big job is now. Who's going to pay for it? You know, who's going to provide that money to give it the safeguard? Like, for me, the biggest thing is when we were talking about the move to Dalymount, is there was never any real guarantees that Bows women or Shells women will have access to Dalymount. That was the major concern for me in terms of, are we going to go back to a days where Bows are playing out in the AUL? No disrespect to the Morton Stadium, but you know, it's not really a great place for football considering how open it is and to the elements and stuff like that. So that was a major concern for me. But I think now the hard work has to start, and we have to see realistic plans, you know, not just from Shelbourne, from the council as well, to what things are going to be doing. The Save Talcott Park campaign was brilliant. What they've done, you could see the players bought into it. Like, you see all the photographs coming out. I think Shelbourne tweeted a video of a young little girl, you know, walking towards the fans that behind the goal. And, you know, they had a big banner that must have been about 50, 60 metres long across behind the goal saying, you know, for the Save Talcott Park campaign. And even when the full-time whistle went, you could see they broke out. And, you know, there's been some massive nights there in women's football. For me, you know, with the Shelbourne win the league last year was a huge one. And then the 4-3 game against Peamount, you know, I think we need to safeguard that for the women. But you're right, it's a dangerous game now, you know, to make sure that it's done properly and it's done correctly, because the last thing you want is all the hard work that's been done now just to go down the drain because maybe there isn't the finances there or there isn't the infrastructures there to actually go and get this done now. So hopefully we see more.
Well, let's get back to the football. And after the game you were at on Saturday, that Shelbourne Peamount game, you caught up with Pearl Slattery. Let's have a listen to what she spoke about in that game.
Pearl Slattery, I think you'll take a 1-0 win against Peamount United any day of the season. Early on, you probably had to defend quite a lot. They were attacking quite a lot. Then when the goal probably come the right time for you, just before half-time, and you sort of were able to take over a little bit more than in the second half.
Yeah, look, delighted with the win and the clean sheet. And you're right, look, they put us under a lot of pressure in the first half, and it was just, I suppose, trying to wave that and get through it as much as we can. We looked at difficulty all over the pitch, so we knew they were going to come out and talk it and be at us. And I thought we defended well, we were sensible, and then I thought we caught them a few times on the counter. And look, Jess Gargan does brilliant for the goal. She drives, she's been in brilliant form, and does brilliant for the goal. And I think we probably on the back of play, but we'll take it. You know, Staple following up, she's in great form as well, and really happy with the 1-0 win.
Talk to me about the goal celebration in particular. We're starting to see more and more of a little collection of Shelbourne fans get behind the goal, banners, flags. It must be amazing though when you score and you turn to that.
Yeah, look, even walking out and you see all the fans, the ultras as we call them down there, it's a special club. And you look, as I said many times, we were going from 40, 50 people to Talcott to hundreds now, and I think that's the biggest crowd there behind the goal today, and it was brilliant. It was amazing, like, you know, it lifts you as well during the game when you're feeling tired and stuff. And look, I'm delighted for, you know, the club and all the girls that we scored that end, and for all the fans. It was brilliant. But look, long way to go as well, so we won't overthink this. We'll still take it game by game. There's a lot of football to be played, but look, if you'd have asked me, would we have taken a 1-0 win today? Absolutely.
As captain, now I can't not ask you about the news this week. You're a Shell's icon. They adore you in this club. To see Dublin City Council come out and announce that they're not going to rezone Talca Park, that they're going to keep it as a football ground. To you, somebody who's cherished many nights on this pitch, look back to last November when you won the league in particular. Massive news for the club, and especially for the women's section in particular.
Yeah, look, it was a special day. Look, you were here that night. We won the league, and it was mad because obviously the Save Talca campaign was in around that time, and it was brilliant timing to win the league. And look, it's just, as I said, it's a special club, it's a special place. I love playing here, I adore it, and I just want to keep being able to play here for the girls, for the next generation of young girls, even importantly, but as well for the fans of the clubs. They adore it, the men and women's team. You've seen it here today. Unbelievable sport, and I'm delighted for them, because look, it was an awful pity, I said it during the week, that they ever had to think about their life without Talca in it. It means so much to people. It is, it brings those magic moments through football, the highs and lows that the club brings, and look, none of us would change it, but I'm delighted for them, because look, as I said, it's this place, and look, I get to know more of the fans, every week, every month, and some of the stories are incredible. So this place is more than just a football pitch, and I'm chuffed for them.
But you see some of these fans now coming down the country. You're playing Galway away. You see the flags now coming. You see that, and even you see you're being adored and being pulled left, right, and centre from fans, just wanting that photo, wanting that little interaction with you. And it's what it's all about, especially with football.
Yeah, it's mad. I've never experienced the last 2 years here. I've never had that in my entire career. So, the support we're getting is incredible. I just want to thank everybody, and look, please keep coming down. Don't just expect that. Fans are coming. The crowds are getting better, but look, keep getting people in the seats, not just in Talca, to support the league as well. But as I said, look, this is a special club, special place, and the support has been immense. And it means so much to us as players and staff to come out and see a crowd here every week.
Last one from me. Massive Dublin derby next week for you. Bohemians, the local rivals up the road. You've had a couple of nervy battles against them, but it's another opportunity just to go out and play another game. Yeah,
look, every game now in the league is a challenge. We went to DLR, we lost, and have to give credit to the staff and the players. The reaction since has been immense, and that's all you want when you do get a defeat like that. How you go about showing a reaction. And look, we've won 2 really, really tough games. One away to Westwood and one at home to Peas, and now you bring on Bows next week, which again, got a point away to Peamount last week. So it just shows the strides they're taking under the management and the players they brought in. So look, we'll enjoy this weekend and then refocus on Monday and focus on Bows then.
Breifne, you're on mute.
I forgot to unmute myself. Rookie mistake. Kieran did it in the men's show earlier. It's been a whirlwind of a league season so far for Sligo Rovers. We've seen everything from them. Surprising wins, even more surprising wins off the pitch. But they have come up really, really well. And it's been a very impressive first season for them. They were in action against their local rivals, their iconic rivals, Galway United or Galway Women's FC on Saturday afternoon as well, 2:00 in the showgrounds. 2-1 the final score. Your thoughts on this? Are they a bit reliant on Emma Doherty kind of scoring wonder goals up top and Kristen Sample saving them at the other end? Because she could be out for a little while now. She picked up an injury at the weekend.
The problem is, Breifne, is when you have a goal scorer like that, you have to utilise them. We look at some clubs who are struggling for goal scorers. They're having goals come from everywhere. So if they can rely on, and if Emma can get 15, 20 goals this season, Sligo will be absolutely delighted. But in terms of Kristen Sample, disappointing. Big loss for them. She's a big character there for them. But, the thing about them is they're continuing to grow, they're continuing to improve on the field, and we probably haven't seen 50% of them yet at the moment. So the second round of games is going to be exciting to see how much they can come on. And, when they play the likes of Peamount again, can they put in that sort of performance that they have put in against the likes of Shelbourne recently?
Yeah, at the weekend, Galway came back from that early goal for Sligo to take the win 2-1. Probably 4-5-1 mightn't have been unjust in terms of the balance of play, because Galway seemed to dominate that game. I know in the middle, Julianne Russell had a couple of efforts there that if they'd hit them, we'd be looking at goal of the month contenders. Yeah,
it could have been a lot more, but we got to credit the Sligo defence as well, that they held through and they didn't just wilt. In terms of Galway, like Julianne's coming there, and Julianne sort of she took a little bit of time to settle in, but she's now starting to see that sparkle form that we saw of her of the National League a couple of years ago, playing a little bit in the middle sometimes as well. And, you know, she's getting on a lot better, and she's going to start pushing herself to where Vera Powell has to start looking at her for maybe home-based training sessions and potentially back into squads again.
I'm glad you said back into squads then, because obviously she's well established, over 50 caps for Ireland at this stage. Would be great to see her back in that mix as well. Moving down the country to Cork, Athlone with the visitors. They really have been, for me at least, the surprise package of this year. Been very, very positive performances. 4 wins on the bounce now. Haven't never managed 2 in a row in their entire history in the league as the women's side. They've got to be really, really happy with what's going on the field for them at the moment.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Breifne, here. I don't think they're surprised. I don't think they're surprised. It's a surprise. You know, everybody have been talking to all off season. Athlone is what I've been getting. You know, people have been telling me they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And you look at some of the performances they put in. You know, they run Wexford close, they run Peamount close. The free kick is the difference between them and Peamount at home. You know, and it's always close when they play the big teams. Tommy Hewitt's got them going very well, and we can't not mention Larry Ryan winning Player of the Month. I think absolutely superb. Just reward for, you could have given it to anybody in that Athlone side, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. And there have been really, really good performances there from Myrna Devaney, 2 goals at the weekend. Roisin Malloy also has popped up with a couple of important goals from play over the last couple of weeks. So it's been a real team effort though in Athlone to see them kind of moving up the table over the last year. I still think it's a surprise to me, I have to say, but I've been really, really impressed with some of their performances this year, and particularly grinding out results against the top sides. It's been very, very impressive. Moving then across to the other side of the league in terms of Wexford, they were in action. They hosted DLR Waves, a very solid win, although maybe Eve Budano would be a bit disappointed with the last-minute concession from a long-distance free kick. Other than that, fairly tight game, not very much in it.
The only thing I will say is with the likes of Wexford, and we'll chat about Kate a little bit about this as well, it's the likes of themselves and DLR at this season. They've just been a little bit inconsistent for me. You know, they put in a great performance, then they go and lose again. And it's sort of, you know, I'm sure Stephen Quinn started thinking, I just want to get a little bit of a run going. I want to get a couple of games on the bounce. And for them, great win, you know, considering they'd lost to Shelbourne and then the draw with Galway, to come back with a win against DLR. DLR, they're not an easy side to beat when, you know, when they're going well. So I think Graham will be disappointed that they come away with that 2-0 loss. But for Stephen Quinn, I think he'll just be happy just to get back to winning ways.
How far can Wexford go this year? I know 3rd last season. They've been in the top 3 for the last few years. Can they keep that 3rd spot? Or are we looking at maybe one of our guests today, pipping them? Because Galway coming along, and we also have Athlone and DLR as well. Could we be looking at Wexford being under pressure for that top 3 position?
Potentially, but the other thing we got to talk about is Peamount could be under pressure as well if they can't get that consistency going as well. And you know, who's to say if with this league the way it's mental at the moment that both of them couldn't be out of, for example, or you know, we don't. That's the great thing that there's 27 games. There's so much. Like if Wexford could go on a run of 4, 5, 6 wins in a row now in the second part of this second phase of the season, they'd well and truly push themselves up. Same with the likes of DLR Galway. And the thing is, it's not necessarily a case of, you know, are you taking points always off the Shelbournes and Peamounts? It's making sure you don't drop them with the teams who are around you. And I think that's been the biggest problem for a lot of these sort of sides. Like you look at DLR, they get the win against Shelbourne, and then the next week they go out against Athlone on the Tuesday evening, and sort of, you know, they don't follow it back up. And, you know, I think that's the biggest thing for any of them sides if they do want to crack that top 2, top 3, is that they get that run.
You're not realistically saying that Peamount are going to be outside the top 3 this year, because I think if you factor in that original game against Sligo, where like even if they hadn't played the unregistered player, they probably would have won that game. They were fairly comfortable. So if you added those 3 points into the round of games they won on the field, 2 more rounds, you have to expect them to have enough to be top 2 at the end of the season, surely.
I have a lot of concerns about the Peamount defence at the moment. I think they have a great shot stopper and goal with Niamh Burke, but at the moment I think the back 4 is probably their weakest link, and we can see with the likes of Bowes, when Bowes got the goal against them, they struggled then to, you know, they're chasing the game, they're struggling. It was a penalty that got them the goal then. Whereas same with Shelbourne get ahead and they're sort of on the back foot. So if teams can get ahead of Peamount and score against Peamount, it puts them under a lot of pressure. And I think this weekend will tell us an awful lot about Peamount, how their characteristics and stuff like that. And they could just go and absolutely do something and just to say to me, well, listen, we done that there just for you. They've been written off before. People said it before about them, but for me, I just think they need to make sure they get back to winning ways, because anything can happen here. If they don't win against Athlone, then 3 on the bounce, then people are talking. Like, we're already looking at last year when they sort of had the games. Everybody thought that the league sewn up going into the last 2 weekends, DLR and then Galway. So it's a different league to a couple of years ago where there's more competition. So I'd expect every team to take points off each other.
Final game that was played last weekend, Treaty and Bohemians down the Markets Field. 4-0 win for Bowes. It's been a fairly dismal year for Treaty so far.
Yeah, Donna Reardon's under no illusion. It's a massive job there. I think the fact he's got Aisling Meany back from America was a great sign. I would have thought she'd have went back to Galway, but to get her in, it was great. It's going to take a lot of time. You can see the average age of the squad is quite young. I think Jessie Mendes has wore the captain's armband a couple of times as well. She's only young in herself. So it's going to be tough, but, if anybody can do it, like Donna Reardon can get a group of players there. He's done great work with Galway, and he has the possibility that he can show massive improvements. In terms of Bowes, backing up the result against Peamount with a 4-0 win away from home sets them up nicely for the massive tie that they've got this weekend.
Final thing before we go to our guests, and we've got Abbiegayle Ronayne waiting for later on the show, but also Kate Mooney very shortly. I want to talk about the situation in Cork City, because we saw this week that Paul Farrell stepped down from his position as manager, citing work commitments and personal situation, and just not been able to commit to the role anymore. Your thoughts on it first before we kind of have a proper chat about it?
Disappointed. I've done a bit of stuff with Paul, nice fella, gentleman. He was trying to repair a lot of damage, a lot of stuff that's gone on there. Like, you look at the stuff that came out before the season where the players were having to train at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because there was no facilities and stuff like that. That has a massive impact on the club. It has a massive impact on trying to attract players and stuff like that. For me, I think the off-the-field issues are bigger. Did he walk or was he pushed? When Ronan Collins left, they said the same thing, left due to work commitments as well. So was it a case of, and they've lost 2 good managers, they've also lost good coaches in the last year or two, and it's difficult. Jess Lawton coming in as the temporary manager, she's managing the 17s and 19s, so it's going to be an awful lot of workload for her. For me, we need a strong Cork in the league for the league to be successful. You look at players who've come out of Cork, Denise O'Sullivan, Claire Shine, you've got the Ava O'Mahony's, some brilliant players there at the moment, Eve Mangan, for example. So I think we need a strong Cork in order to be able to progress this league. I just hope whatever's gone on off the field, they can get it structured, to get it sorted.
And unfortunately, he's back. Aaron, you're back. Sorry.
It was Paul had it was a big task on his hands in terms of it was a massive rebuild. So, I'm disappointed, but I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit like that as well. I think there's more to the story than maybe the official statement. As always, there's a little bit behind the scenes. I'd like to know a little bit more before I comment on anything. In terms of that, that's our review of last weekend's games. Let's get on to the meat of the actual show. We have a catch now with striker for DLR Waves, Kate Mooney. She'll be joining us in just a second. Kate, you're very, very welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's been a pleasure kind of watching you, the little bit of it we have over the last year or two with DLR Waves, and of course a couple of seasons with Shells before that. First of all, we probably have to start with the injuries. Let's get the negative stuff out of the way, and we can talk about all the positivity, what's going to come for the rest of the season. But before we get into the injuries, we will talk about Sunday, because you started for the under-19s in their game in Tallaght Stadium against Shamrock Rovers for DLR, and a bit of a viral video. That was a bit of a wonder strike you had yourself. You got to be happy after that.
Oh, I'm very happy with that goal, yeah. I think it's great to have the opportunity of the 19s league. I think for myself, coming back from injury, I think just getting fitness and getting game time, I think it was brilliant. And to kind of score a goal like that, I think my confidence is a bit high at the moment, but I'm still trying to work hard and get myself back to who I was before the injuries, yeah.
Okay, just from me, Breifne, I've covered a lot of DLR Waves last year. I saw the work that Kate put in, before games, after games, running up and down the sideline, working with the physios, and it must have been tough, especially for you. You had the setback, which we'll talk about, but to actually have the opportunity, you're there and then it's pulled away from you again.
Yeah, it was difficult because I I enjoyed my time at Shells completely. I moved for personal reasons, kind of to get game time, and then I kind of found myself being like most confident and happiest I've ever felt in football. And then I think it was the second game in, and then I do my ACL, which is probably the worst injury a footballer's ever going to get. So I think I felt I was happy, and then it was all taken away from me. But I think with my mindset throughout the whole injury, I just worked so hard, and I was back within 9 months, and I was running within 4 months. So I think having that injury, it's just made me so much stronger, and I've worked on muscles that I've never even knew that I had, and I think I'm just so much stronger than I've ever been before. So I think in a way it's a blessing in disguise, but I hope it never happens again.
In terms of that timeline, because I was watching the game live the day you got injured on LOI TV, and I remember you scored a great goal, and then all of a sudden it was like season over. Talk us through that first couple of hours, I suppose, the incident itself, and then kind of what's going through your head in terms of just the emotions and the thoughts of where you're going from there.
Yeah, I think when it happened, I went straight into panic mode. I heard a click, and then I didn't know if it was just kind of like air in my knee or something like that. I felt pain, and then I didn't feel pain, and then I tried to go back on and play, and I think adrenaline took me through, and then I heard 2 more pops when I went back down. So I was just like, I think that's me done. But I remember actually being in the hospital, and I stuck the game straight back on, and I was watching because I heard Galway got an equaliser, and I was like, oh please, I'll do anything to win. And then Katie Malone came through, and she's on form at the moment, and I'm so happy to see. And she came through with the goal, and I remember watching it in hospital, and I was just praying. I was actually out of pain, which was a good thing. I didn't have that much pain, so I was expecting it not to be my ACL, because I've heard like awful stories about ACLs and the pain and stuff like that. So I was actually thinking it was possibly the LCL or something like that. But yeah, I think the worst nightmare came true when I heard it was ACL. But yeah, it was rough.
And in terms of, say, when you do that injury, how long was it? Because obviously they got to let the swelling go down and all that before they operate. How long were you waiting before you had to get the operation?
So I actually didn't have that much swelling, so they were able to do the operation within 2 weeks. So I was very lucky, and I was very lucky to know Niamh McLaughlin, who worked in Santry at the time, and she was able to pass me on to Dan Withers in Santry. So I got lucky that I knew someone in Santry, and that's the best place possible that you could go with the type of injury that I had. So I was seen very quick, and within 2 weeks to have surgery and for the swelling not to be bad, I was very, very lucky.
I love the football links there. Niamh McLaughlin obviously played with Shelbourne.
Yeah. No, I was a very good friend with her at Shells, so I kind of just texted her straight away, and she's a physio herself, so I was just looking for any help that I possibly could get, and she was amazing to me, to be fair, and she sent me on to a great physio as well in Santry, and I've been working with him. I'm still working with him for the past 12 months now, and he got me back within 9 months, and I just couldn't be more grateful for the people that you meet and the setup and everything. Yeah.
Does your education, because you're studying to be a nurse, does that help having that kind of background of the medical environment and maybe not being a little bit intimidated or a bit overawed by what happens in those or in and around those operations?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it actually took me by surprise, because I'm usually the one looking after the people on the bed, and I was the one in the bed. So I was like, I remember I was actually coming off all the morphine and stuff like that, and I thought I was a nurse after my surgery, and I was trying to go and help people in the other beds, and they were all telling me to sit down and relax in my own bed, and but it does. The experience of being a nurse definitely does help. You know what medication you're taking, you know when to take it, you know what's happening when they come in to take blood pressure. Like it definitely kept me in like a ease of mind and stuff like that, because I got the surgery during COVID as well, so I was by myself, but I kind of knew what was going on, so it definitely helped a lot.
And just on, like, Kate, you talked a little bit about maybe a blessing in disguise for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you keep motivated? Because, you're in, as you say, you're during COVID. Nobody can be around you for a lot of the time when you're in hospital or your appointments. Like, how do you keep motivated in that sort of situation? Because the easy option is just to say, listen, I'll be back when I'm back. you know, but you didn't, and you were just determined. You were like a raging bull just to get back onto that pitch and get that Waves kit back on you.
Yeah, and I still am like that. But I don't know. I guess I think my whole family are kind of like this. We work so hard as a family, and I have great support in my friends. And whenever I was down or frustrated with an injury, I just text them. They'd bring me for coffee. Like the likes of Lynn, I play with her now, so she would kind of help me so much throughout the injury. And I was good friends with Carla as well. She's been through the same ACL injury and stuff like that. So I kind of I talk to them, and they just help me stay my head focused. And I think just the excitement of getting back on that pitch and playing the thing that I've been playing since I was 6 years old was the real driving force. And to get that jersey back on and prove that Graham signed me for a reason, and I want to be able to be that player for him and show him what I have and what I can do for this team.
I hope
you never missed a game.
Sorry, go ahead,
Breifne.
I was just saying, I hope you weren't suggesting you were tapping up players from other clubs, bringing them for coffee when they're registered to other teams. We won't get into that. I do know you're in college with them, so it's slightly a fudged area. In terms of, I suppose, the season so far, let's talk about it this year in the football. It's been a bit of a mixed bag. You beat Shells, you're losing to teams that you'd expect to maybe be more competitive against, the likes of Westwood last week. What is it that's maybe not quite clicking 100% for the team, in your opinion?
I think we sometimes do lack in experience. I think Wexford definitely had that experience last week. I think we are a very young side. I mean, we have improved massively over the years, and you can't take that away from us. But I think we do need to have more belief in ourselves. Believe that we can beat the top three teams, because sometimes we play amazing against the top three teams, and then we drop our standards in a way. But I think we can get there, but we just have to be a bit more consistent. But I think so far we are having probably one of our best seasons that we've ever had, and it can only get better. And I mean, it's a long season, and we can fix our mistakes and tweak a few things, and then I think we're starting to kind of get into our stride now. It kind of just took a while.
We have a lot of players in that team who, you know, from different clubs who are used to winning. Jess Gleeson, Eve Madonna's been in Ireland squads. Like, how do you get that, you know, maybe extra bit of experience or bit of leadership onto some of the younger players then to pass on that knowledge to them? Like, as you say, the Shells game in particular, brilliant on the day, defended brilliantly, and then you know, you go out against the likes of Athlone a couple of days later. How do you get that experience onto the younger players?
I think that just takes time. It takes patience. I think playing alongside the players like Jess and Lynn, I think that will help mostly with the younger players. And I think like the likes of Joy coming up and Orla and stuff like that, like the more times that they play with the experienced players like Eve, Jess, Lynn, Sarah, they will just learn, and it will take time. And it's only been, I think, 3 months or something like that of the season so far. So I think maybe we'll see a lot more experience in them younger players at the end of the season, but that definitely just takes time and game time.
In terms, I suppose, just to finish up with you, DLR made an announcement today about their support of Mental Health Week, and admission to their game on Saturday against Sligo Rovers is free to everybody who wants to come along. Hoping for a big crowd, cheer on the Waves, and maybe create a nice memory for some youngsters getting to their first Women's National League game. Yeah,
100%. If anybody could come, we'd be more than welcome to have them. I think it's a great initiative, and I think Mental Health Week is so important. As like, I think we actually have a program coming out as well on the day, and I think Avril is our mental health awareness kind of person on the team, and I think she's making this kind of like a healthy well-being kind of subject in the program, which is great. And every person will get one of them on the day, and I think that is brilliant as well, just to kind of shine a light on mental health, and that sometimes it's okay not to be okay, and there's kind of little tips in that program and stuff like that, how to get through it. And I think that would be brilliant for anyone that's going through a hard time, and the fact that it's free entry, I think, is just it's brilliant. And I hope we have a lot of fans in the day, and I hope it goes well and we get the win.
Just to clarify, tickets are required, but you can get them online for free. All the links are on DLR Waves, various social media channels. Kate, it's been a pleasure. We're going to let you go before you disappear into the darkness there. Daylight has left us in the last 10 or 15 minutes. So thanks very much for joining us. The very best of luck on Saturday for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.
Now we're joined for the next section of the show with a player from the other side of the country whose camera, for whatever reason, doesn't appear to be coming on for us here. She seems to have frozen up a little bit. I will try her again, but we may have to drop her out of the show for a second. So the joys of doing live TV. So no, she'll be back with us in a second. She'll hopefully reconnect. Her camera will be working in just a moment. It's Abbiegayle Ronayne. She'll be with us in a couple of minutes. But first of all, Aaron, you mentioned she's back now. 1 second. Abbiegayle, we can not quite see her yet. Hopefully, you'll join us down in a second. But there she is. Abbiegayle, what's absolutely worth waiting for. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hiya, how are you?
Great yourself. Of course, a proud Mayo woman. You've played for 10 years. There seems to be a bit of a lag on your connection. We might ask you to disconnect and come back into us again, Abbiegayle. We'll try and get that working again in just a second. So we're going to just, we'll come back to Abbiegayle in just a second. Yeah, the joys of producing a live show, unfortunately. Aaron, let's talk about DLR and Kate and the impact that she could make, because she's effectively a new player coming back into that team. Despite being at the club for a season and a half at this stage, she's had very little game time. We saw what she can do with a football at her feet in that viral video on Sunday. DLR have kind of missed someone who leads the line, who's physical, who can get involved and who can get stuck in. Will she add that to Graham's arsenal really over the next couple of weeks?
To be honest with you, when I seen she signed last year leaving Shelbourne, I thought, oh wow, game changer, absolute game changer. She was probably unlucky at Shelbourne that, you know, there was some great players there that she was a little bit behind, but there's no doubt about it that Kate Mooney is a quality footballer, and you know, if she stays fit, there's no reason why she can't score a bucket of goals for them, you know. And she's probably the sort of player that you've got a young Joy Ralph at the club at 16 who will learn so much from the likes of Kate. You know, we only have to look what Kate was doing with ECU and the colleges. You know, she was brilliant. She was scoring goal for fun, and I've no doubt if you can get a fit Kate Mooney and you can build that front five around Kate Mooney will score goals, and she could be what they're missing. You know, she could be that link to give them that extra. But then again, if Graham can keep the likes of Carl McManus fit as well, you know, he could go with 2 up top, or he could put in the likes of Katie Malone up there and go 2 up top and cause a lot of trouble. So, and I think for him, he's just hoping just to have Kate back a run of games, and you know, let's see how good she can be, because there's no doubt talent, she's got it. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Well, let's try this third time lucky now. We're going to go over to Abbiegayle Ronayne. Abbiegayle, you with us this time?
Yeah, hopefully. Sorry, the Wi-Fi in Mayo is not as good as Dublin, I'm afraid.
That's all right. That's allowed. We've a bit of a delay, I think, on the call, but we'll make do as much as we can. First of all, you're back in Galway this year. What's your thoughts on being back at Eamon Deacy Park?
It's great to be back. I'm actually loving every minute of it. The training is just top class, and I'm enjoying Adrian Cronin. I think he's one of the best goalkeeping coaches I've ever trained with. So it's been a really good game, and just feeling myself like I'm improving when I go training. And obviously the players, the group is just amazing. I think everyone took me in so well, and they're all so friendly. So it's been great being back.
And in terms of making that move, you know, you went to Athlone. The main reason going to Athlone was to play games, play regularly. You know, you got a good bit of game time there. When the opportunity come to go back to Galway, was it an easy decision, or did you have to think about it? You know, what was the thoughts behind going back?
It wasn't easy to I don't.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think
First choice goalie, and having that back women.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's an issue there with the sound. We're just going to drop Abbiegayle out of that. We're going to give her one last chance. I'm going to just text her now quickly. There's a little bit of a tip that we might be able to improve her quality. But in the meantime, Aaron, talk to us about Galway and what you've been impressed with this year so far with them.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Galway this season could have capitulated when Savannah McCarthy got injured. They didn't sort of let that. They've had some bad results, but they've shown a good bounce back ability. They've shown the ability that they can still cause a lot of trouble to teams. They've some absolutely superb underage players. The biggest thing that I've said for the last couple of years with Galway is it's about getting them underage players to make that step to senior level. Like you look at the likes of Shauna Brennan, Trace Kenevi. Anytime they play for Galway, they're standout players. They're always, there or thereabouts. Kate Slevin, when she was playing bits last year, she unfortunately went off playing a bit of Gaelic football, so hasn't helped a bit. But Julianne Russell, as I mentioned earlier, it's been brilliant since she's gone back to them. And I think for Galway, they're the sort of team that they're building again. Obviously, with Alan Murphy coming in, massive experience within the men's game, even managed Galway United. So he wasn't going to take that job lightly. He wasn't going to take that just for a bit of fun. He's managing the League of Ireland, so for him to take a job like this, conditions would have had to be in right. Stephen Lally obviously stepping off, going up to an off the field role, and for me, I think the Savannah McCarthy injury sort of knocked them for six a little bit, but they're still out. They're still showing that they can get good results. Like the win against Bows in Dublin was a very good win, and they're just showing they're capable of doing that. I'd like to see them just get that little bit of consistency and get a run of game going. Because as you said earlier, Breifne, like there is a chance that they can make the top three. But for me, you just want to see that couple of games go and get the couple of wins on the bounce. Let's see how good they really are. There's no doubt they have good quality players.
Okay, we're going to have a fourth and possibly final attempt at bringing Abbiegayle in here. Abbiegayle, how are we fixed for delays now? How are we doing?
Hopefully, it's all is good.
That sounds pretty good from our end. Let's get back to kind of the question we asked earlier about. I suppose I think Aaron asked you about maybe was it an easy decision to go back to Eamon Deacy Park this season when that opportunity came up?
No, it definitely wasn't an easy decision. Like I said, I really enjoyed my time at Athlone and the experience of playing week in, week out. But probably the main thing that really shifted my focus was that I was going to college in Galway, and I didn't really want to have that burden of having to travel like an hour to training. And also, having talked with Alan, I really liked his plan for the season. I really liked his ideas. So I kind of felt like that was the place where I was going to develop and really push on in my game. So those were really the main points, reasons really why I moved to Galway.
I suppose we first crossed paths a number of years ago now when you spent a season with Sligo Rovers in the under 17 league back in the day. Was that an option for you? Did that come up? Was there a discussion there at all about maybe making the trip up to the showgrounds to revisit there?
No, it wasn't discussed on my end anyway. I never really got in touch with the manager or he with me, so it was mainly my focus was either Galway or Athlone to really continue on. And like I said, I made the decision with Galway, and I'm very happy with it.
And in terms of you mentioned the college stuff as well. You had a successful year with the college as well, which is always nice. Winning the league, beating some of your old teammates in the TUS Midlands as well.
Yeah, it was a fantastic experience playing in the league, in the colleges league. Sorry, just a lot of the girls in Galway. I think there was about 6 or 7 players that I was playing with on the Galway team or under 17 Galway team that were there in the colleges setup. So it was like we knew each other already going in. I played with most of the players, and it didn't take much for us to really click and sort of bond as a group, which I think really was one of the reasons why we were so successful this year. But it was a class experience. It's different to play in the Women's National League. I think there's definitely a lot of pride playing for your college, and obviously there's pride playing for Galway, but it's a different experience and it's really nice. There's less pressure and it's something you really enjoy.
It tends to be a lot more social in the college environment as well. In terms of, I suppose, the that experience of trying to mix education with playing a bit of football on that level with the college, but also playing at the top level in the country. How do you find mixing that? Do things slip? Does it affect the books? Does it affect maybe the college football, or how does that work?
No, they're very flexible in terms of. Billy Cleary was our manager for NUIG, and like he knew us, and he knew a lot of the girls were training 4 times a week with Galway Women's. So obviously we didn't have to go to the amount of trainings that maybe the girls who weren't involved in those elite setups would have had to. So that helps as well with college work. So it's just all about time management really, and he was very helpful in that. So he'd given us time off if we needed to study, or if we were just very tired from a training or a game the previous week. So it wasn't hard at all really, and it was very enjoyable. Yeah.
Like, I know from experiences with Billy, you know, from when he managed Galway, even now, like I get stuff off him all the time where it's, can you help me promote this for the Galway college team? I know it's constant, and you can see like he's a massive passion for football in Galway.
Sorry, can you say that again? I just missed the last part of your question.
No, it's fine. Billy, he's a massive passion for football in Galway, not just for the college, even for the Women's National League team. He's always championing for everything for the best for the girls.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He was always on at the colleges, trying to get more for us, trying to make the soccer program at NUIG even more elite than it was. Like trying to get us extra gear or trying to promote the college in some way through us. So it was fantastic, and I think just our success is definitely he is a massive part of the reason why we're so successful, and the reason why so many new girls joined the league or the college's league, because he was promoting it and encouraging new girls to come along, which was why we had such a variety in our squad. We had like nearly 4 or 5 girls from the USA who were in for just a couple of months or for a semester. So he's fantastic, yeah.
Abbiegayle, I know as a youngster you dipped your toe into an awful lot of different sports. You played a bit of Gaelic. Of course, your mother has a long history playing in the Green and Red and Mayo as well. You also played a bit of rugby, if I believe, and was there even a suggestion of some golf in there as well? What are you currently playing, and kind of, is it just football now, or do you still maintain an interest in all the other sports as well?
It is just soccer at the minute. I don't think really in terms of time management I'd be able to balance playing the sports I used to back in third year and stuff, but I do still like enjoy going to the gym obviously like 2-3 times a week. It's as a foundation for my soccer, but it's still something else that's quite enjoyable and takes my mind away from maybe just that one sport. Like it can get a bit overwhelming at times, but hopefully in the summer when I have a bit more free time, or after the season has ended, I'll get back into some of the sports, like back with my local GA team. I usually play 1 or 2 games when the season ends, or even back playing golf. I haven't played in a while, but I look forward to getting back out again at some point.
Try and get that handicap down. Abbiegayle, listen, we kind of run out of time, unfortunately, due to the technical issues. We're a little bit short, so apologies for having to cut you a little bit short today, but thank you so much for joining us, and we'll get those little niggles out of the technology in the next time we chat to you on the show. Best luck for the weekend, and the best luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks a million.
And of course, that is always the joys of live broadcast, folks. Just a little bit of a technicality there, just difficulties with the Wi-Fi. But Abbiegayle, phenomenal asset to Galway Women's FC this year. Nice to see her back kind of in her natural habitat. I know she did spend a year in Sligo, but other than that, she's been at Galway and Athlone. So she's been moving around a bit, but it's nice to see her back comfortable in that spot. Yourself, Aaron, we talked a little bit before she left us about Galway's season so far. Your thoughts, kind of maybe some positives, some negatives, a bit of a fairly balanced season for them. They've got to be disappointed though. 5th in the league. You'd expect them to be pushing on, maybe putting a bit more pressure on the teams above them.
They were probably, if it was to say anybody was going to break the top 3, they were the team I would have said at the start of the year. Probably a little bit disappointed, but the best thing is, we've only played 9 games. There's still an additional 18 games to go this year. So it's a long season. There's quite a number of games still to come, before the international break. But the likes of Galway, what they'll be targeting, they'll be probably targeting a good cup run as well this year. If they could get to the Tallaght Stadium for the cup final, it'd be a massive achievement for them this year. I think, as we said earlier, the loss of Savannah McCarthy, I don't think that can be estimated how big of a loss that was. Top caliber player. But the only question you have to ask is, would they have really kept Savannah after the summer? Would she have potentially went abroad? So, I think Alan will probably look at the transfer window, see can he strengthen it a little bit then for the second half of the season. But for them, it's probably been a bit of a mixed bag of season. Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say.
I think Galway always have, as Abbiegayle touched on there, they always have that kind of an opportunity to maybe bring in an American player that from left field that we haven't heard of, the likes of Emma Starr and the Rutland sisters. They just seem to kind of unearth these players who add something to the squad as well. Of course, they're in action this weekend. They host Treaty United on Saturday evening. You'd expect Galway to take all 3 points from that?
Yeah, it's the opportunity for them, especially they looked at this game with Sligo last week as a perfect opportunity to back up for Don O'Riordan and Treaty. I think he's just going to look for more of a performance side of things, and if they can keep the scoreline down and get some sort of performance, I think Don would be happy. But for Alan, it'd have to be all 3 points.
And looking across the rest of the tables, the rest of the fixtures this weekend, DLR Waves, they host the Sligo Rovers in that game. We talked about free admission. Get your free tickets on the link is on their social media accounts, and now it's all to promote Mental Health Awareness Week as well, which is, of course, this week. So our little bit for that as well. We're happy to help promote that. But do take, maybe there's a youngster in your life that would have fancy getting a chance to have a look at the talent that's in our league. So good opportunity to get in and do that. DLR Waves Sligo on the field. What's your thoughts on that? DLR will be his favourites, perhaps?
They will be favourites, but if you look at Sligo's last trip to Dublin, it was a 92nd minute goal from Kiva Keenan, a lovely finish all the same. But they could have scored against Shelbourne and went 1-0 up just before that. So for them, they're gonna have no fear coming up here. Yes, they did a loss against Galway last week, and losing Kristen Sample is not going to be easy to replace for them. But the likes of Gemma McGuinness has been very good for them, and I think they've got good players all over the pitch. For Graham and DLR, it's important that they do go and get a result after the back of the Wexford one. I would fancy DLR to pick up the 3 points, but I don't think Sligo will make it easy for them at all.
Yeah, and I think Amy Mann came in last week to replace Kristen Sample when she got injured. I saw her in pre-season in a friendly. She quite impressed me there. I think she does a lot of the basics well, and I know I think she won't be as big a drop as maybe people are thinking, because Kristen Sample has been excellent for Sligo so far.
For me, Breifne, sometimes it's not about the ability; it's the drop off. Like if you listen to Kristen during the game as well, it's the communication side of things as well. For me, is nearly as important as the ability. So that'll be Amy's biggest job, is to make sure she marshals the defence, she marshals the midfielders that are dropping into where she wants and covers them, because there's no doubt about it. She's got some good fundamentals. But if she can do that, it would absolutely mitigate the loss to a minimum.
Absolutely. I mean, Lauren Bowles for me has been their best player this season. And I think if she's on form and Emma Doherty's on the field, I think Sligo are always in with a chance of causing a surprise in any game. So interesting how that goes. Peamount host Athlone. Athlone, the form team. Laurie Ryan, as you mentioned, player of the month this month. Peamount not on the best sort of form. They'll need to kind of, and this is a chance for them to kind of make a statement and say, no, don't forget about us. We're in this title hunt, because Athlone at the moment is running well.
Yeah, but you have to remember the last time they played was when Tegan Ruddy scored the free kick against Athlone and went to win 2-1. Athlone were 1-0 up. Athlone probably could have had another goal in that game as well, to go further out of sight. So for them, they know what they can do against Peamount. For Peamount, you're right, they have to go out and they have to get a performance in. I think James will be looking for a clinical performance from his side. So if they can score early, they could put the pressure onto Tommy Hewitt's side. But the problem is, if they don't score early and they say they go into 0-0 at half time, the pressure starts to creep up a little bit, especially off the back of the draw and the loss. So for Peamount, it's going to have to be a really, really, really good performance to get the 3 points, because Athlone aren't going to go in there to make up the numbers. You would expect Peamount to get the win, but if they're any way off sorts, Athlone could punish them. Emily Corbett, 2 goals last weekend. Again, she scored some superb goals. I think she's 5 or 6 goals for the season.
Yeah, no, she's been very, very impressive so far this year. The other games, of course, this weekend we have Cork City hosting Wexford Youths. Cork, they've struggled this year. New manager again. It's been a challenge for them. Can we see them being competitive against a team like Wexford?
I can't really see it this weekend, but I think Jess Lawton will get a bit of a reaction from them. I think Wexford should be just too strong for them. And just for people, if they're not aware, this game is actually being moved to a later kickoff. I think the Intermediate Cup final is on in Turner's Cross early on Saturday afternoon, so they've gone to a 7 o'clock kickoff. And it's a good opportunity for people to get out and watch some smashing young players. Zara Foley's just come back into that Cork setup. Will add a lot. If they get one or two more back from maybe America for the summer, even could add to them. But I think it's for Cork, it's just going to be about consolidating and just trying to build that foundations back up, so then they can try and get a couple of results going. But for Wexford, 3 points is a must.
Final game of the weekend, probably the one with the most pizzazz to it, is that North Dublin derby.
Can't wait.
Shell's making that journey across not even across the city, across the road almost to Dalymount. Bows, Shells, we know everything it brings between the two clubs as a whole. Shell's obviously much more competitive on the field in the women's game at the moment. Bows are making strides. Could we see a surprise?
Do you know what? It's the first time they're going to play each other in Dalymount. The last two times they played each other when Bows hosted, it was in the AOL, it was in the Oscar Trainer. For me, you look at the results against the previous side. The opening day of the season, it was a nice finish to go to win 1-0. Last season when they played, the midweek game, it was 3-2, late winner. One of the other games, Noel King in the 80th minutes telling the side, listen, go to the corner, just take the 3 points, take the 1-0 win and walk away with a result. So, Bows are going in off the back of the Peamount result. That'll give them massive confidence. If they were to get a result against Shells, it'd probably be their best result. Like the Peamount result was the first time they've got a point off any of the top three. It's been coming, it's been a build, as you say, a good building step. But if they are to get anything, they're probably going to need Shelbourne to be off the keel a little bit if they are to get something out of this game. Interesting, Bows are going to try and break a Women's National League attendance record, so they're offering free entry for anybody who cycles to the ground. Breifne, you'll like that one. And they're having a family fun day before the game as well. So they're trying to promote it. I think it's a great idea. I'm truly looking forward to the game. Realistically, if I'm Bows, I just want a good performance to back up the performance they've had last week. They had last weekend against Peamount, but realistically, if you're to say is there going to be a winner in the game, you'd have to put your money in Shelbourne.
Yeah, cycling in for free, getting mental health across the city in DLR for free ticks all my boxes. It's absolutely made for me this weekend. Don't think I'll make it, unfortunately. The 170 kilometers of a cycle might have something to do with that. There was a time when that was a thing for me. Not so much anymore. However, I'm looking at the table going into this weekend, and I see one big opportunity here for a big divide to grow between that 6th and 7th place. And I think if the game's going to form, we could be looking at up to 7 points between the sides, between 6th and 7th on Saturday evening. And I think that would really create almost 3 tiers within the league, which is a little bit of a worry in the greater scheme of things going forward. Any thoughts on that in terms of the competition between the sides and kind of these little mini leagues that are appearing within the league itself?
Unfortunately, at the moment, it's going to happen. Last couple of years, it's sort of been the top three against the rest. Thankfully, that's starting to close. But I do see, unfortunately, Treaty and Cork getting pulled adrift a little bit. You look at Cork, did have to win against Bows. Bows had ample opportunities in that game, but Cork were just brilliant on the day. But you'd sort of have to say, at the moment, it's going to get bigger and bigger. Do I envisage Cork getting a couple of wins this season? Probably, in the second half of the season. But for me, the most important thing is it's who they get into that managerial position. They have to get the right candidate in there. Has to be also someone with a bit of Women's National League experience or a bit of experience in the women's game to go and get that club back onto where it needs to be. But I do think there will be a divide. It's going to be a long season for Treaty. I think for them, it's going to be about performances rather than results, and we probably won't see any real major improvements from them until probably next year. Absolutely.
Well, listen, on that note, thank you, Aaron, for joining me for today's show. To guests this evening, to Pearl Slattery, who spoke to you after the game, and to the two girls, to Kate and Abbiegayle, for joining us over the last hour or so. I'm Breifne Early, and this has been the Women's National League show here on finalwhistle.ie. We'll be back with you next week, of course, around the grounds for the Women's National League anyway, Saturday evenings, towards the end of that kickoff, maybe about just before 9 o'clock on Saturday night. Jeremy will be with you for reports of all of the games. You can catch us on all of the social media accounts for Final Whistle and all of the usual social media outlets. I'll be back with you next week. We'll talk to you then. Thanks for joining us.